The silence began at exactly the same moment everywhere. Across the galaxy, thousands of listening stations blinked, paused, and ran their checks again. Human signals, constant for centuries, were gone. No music, no traffic beacons, no military chatter, no civilian noise. Earth had gone silent. At first, no one panicked. Humanity was known for chaos, not discipline. A communications failure was normal. A political collapse, maybe. A war between themselves, most likely. But the silence did not break. Minutes passed, then hours, then a full cycle. Deep space observers adjusted their instruments. They pointed every sensor toward Sol. The star still burned. The planets still moved. Earth was still there. Blue. Alive. But quiet. Too quiet. Humanity has always been loud. They broadcast greetings, arguments, jokes, and threats into the void. They filled space with noise because they feared being alone. Now they sounded like something that no longer needed to speak. At a remote monitoring station near the galactic rim, an ancient observer species noticed something strange. The human silence was not spreading outward like destruction. It was contained, clean, perfect, engineered. The station sent an alert up the chain. Others ignored it. Humans were weak. They always had been. Short lives, divided minds, too emotional, too fragile. Most species assumed Earth had finally destroyed itself. Celebrations happened on some worlds. Trade routes were rerouted. Human space was marked as inactive, but a few did not celebrate. On a hidden moon orbiting a dead star, an emergency council convened for the first time in 4,000 years. Its members were ancient, cautious, and afraid of patterns repeating. They did not ask what happened to Earth. They asked why. One elder replayed old recordings of humanity, war footage, scientists arguing with generals, children laughing under alien skies. They were reckless, one voice said. They were harmless, said another. The oldest among them remained silent. Then the elder spoke. Harmless species do not vanish cleanly, it said. Only disciplined ones do. A junior analyst interrupted with new data. Long-range scans showed Earth's power output had not dropped. It had flattened. Perfectly stable. Impossible for a living planet. The energy was being controlled. The room grew cold. Someone whispered. They shut themselves down. No, the elder replied. They shut us out. The council ordered deeper scans, illegal ones. The kind that bent treaties and risked detection. What they found made several delegates disconnect in fear. Human satellites still existed, but they were dark. Human ships were still present, but frozen in perfect orbits. Every system was powered, waiting, listening, but giving nothing away. It did not collapse. It was preparation. One delegate asked the question no one wanted to ask. What could humans possibly prepare for? The elder did not answer immediately. Instead, it accessed sealed archives, records from before humanity ever reached the stars. Records of civilizations that vanished without a fight. Every case was the same. Silence first, then annihilation later. Humanity had studied those stories too. Another alert sounded, this time from outside human space. A deep space buoy, light years away from Earth, activated for the first time in centuries. It transmitted a single burst of data before erasing itself. The message was human. It was old, primitive, almost friendly. We are still here. No threats followed. No demands. Just silence again. Across the galaxy, military commanders laughed nervously. Politicians argued. Traders panicked. Religious worlds prayed. Everyone felt it. Humanity had never been this calm before. On Earth, sensors detected massive energy movement beneath the planet's crust. Oceans shifted by millimeters. The magnetic field tightened like a clenched fist. Earth was not dying. It was being used. The council demanded to know how long the silence had been planned. Analysts traced the first missing signals backward, layer by layer. Decades, then centuries. Humanity had slowly removed itself from notice, piece by piece, long before anyone realized it mattered. They had learned something the galaxy never did. Being ignored was safer than being watched. The part ends with a final, terrifying realization. Every human signal ever recorded, every broadcast, every distress call, every greeting, had been archived and studied by humanity itself. They had been listening the entire time. And now, the galaxy was the one making noise. The galaxy did not forget humanity by accident. It happened slowly, through comfort and arrogance, wrapped in paperwork, trade laws, and polite neglect. Humanity was never conquered. No fleets burned Earth. No great war erased them from the stars. They were simply moved aside. In the early days of interstellar expansion, humans had arrived loud and hopeful. Their ships were crude but fast. Their science was uneven but creative. They asked questions other species avoided and pushed ideas others dismissed as dangerous. That alone made the galaxy uncomfortable. At the first interstellar councils, humanity sat at the edges of vast halls, watching ancient empires argue over borders that had existed for millennia. Humans spoke often, too often. They proposed alliances, shared technology freely, and asked for shared defense. They were answered with smiles and delays. The galaxy saw humans as children with weapons, curious, emotional, unpredictable. Their short lifespans disturbed the long-lived species. Their habit of fighting among themselves made them seem unstable. So the galaxy chose the safer path. Human colonies were approved, but always far from core systems. Trade routes passed near them, never through them. Defensive pacts excluded them temporarily. Councils promised future membership that never came. Humanity was not rejected openly. They were quietly isolated. At first, humans pushed back. Diplomats argued. Scientists tried to impress. Fleets trained harder than necessary. Humans believed effort would earn respect. It did not. Over time, their messages changed. Hope turned into frustration. Frustration turned into anger. Then anger turned into something quieter. Resignation. Galactic records show the exact moment human participation declined. Fewer council appearances. Fewer trade disputes. Fewer protests when new laws cut them off from shared resources. The galaxy interpreted this as weakness. Typical, analysts said. They lost interest. Internal collapse, others guessed. No one considered another possibility. Humanity stopped asking. Instead, they listened. They watched how the galaxy treated strong species, fearfully, carefully. They watched how weak ones were managed, controlled, harvested, forgotten. And they learned the most important lesson of all. In a galaxy of ancient powers, attention was dangerous. Human scientists redirected funding away from public projects. Military fleets were downsized on record, while private research budgets quietly expanded. Colonies that seemed abandoned were not destroyed. They were hollowed out, moved underground, shielded from scans. Human networks fractured on purpose. Instead of one large presence, humanity became 1,000 small, forgettable ones. The galaxy marked this as decline. Trade guilds lowered human ratings. Military observers stopped monitoring their drills. Eventually, human space was reclassified from emerging power to non-strategic region. That label was the death sentence. Once marked non-strategic, no one looked closely anymore. For the first time in centuries, humanity was truly alone. And that was exactly what they needed. Freed from oversight, human science crossed lines no council would have allowed. They stopped asking if something was ethical according to galactic standards and started asking a different question. Would this keep us alive? Artificial intelligence was banned across most of the galaxy after earlier disasters. Humans rebuilt it anyway, not as rulers, but as mirrors of themselves. Flawed, adaptive, emotional in controlled ways. Energy generation limits were ignored. Human engineers no longer relied on stars. They learned to fold space, recycle entropy, and trap motion itself. Weapons research did not focus on bigger explosions. Humans had learned from history that destruction attracted attention. Instead, they worked on denial, removing the enemy's ability to act at all. Silence became a weapon. Human culture changed too. Old myths of glory and conquest faded. New stories took their place. Stories about survival, sacrifice, and long patience. Children learned that being underestimated was not an insult. It was camouflage. Generations grew up knowing the galaxy did not care about them. That knowledge hardened them. When human diplomats finally stopped appearing at councils altogether, no one objected. Their seats were removed quietly. Their symbols are archived. Humanity was officially classified as a minor, declining species. The designation freed enormous resources. Patrols were pulled back. Observation satellites were reassigned. Human space became one of the least monitored regions in the galaxy. That was when the real work began. Hidden facilities activated far from Earth. disguised as debris fields or dead moons. Human ships stopped using standard hyperspace lanes, carving paths that looked like navigation errors to anyone who noticed them at all. And Earth itself changed. From orbit, it looked the same. Blue oceans, green land, white clouds. But beneath the surface, entire continents were transformed into layered systems of machines and minds. Not factories, foundations. Earth was becoming something else. The galaxy noticed none of it. Why would they? Humans had never mattered before. Centuries passed. Empires rose and fell. Wars erased entire species. New threats emerged and were defeated. Through it all, humanity remained quiet, compliant, and invisible, until the day the signals stopped. Now, in the present, alien historians replayed the long timeline in horror. The pattern was obvious in hindsight. Every reduction in human visibility matched a spike in hidden development. Every ignored request aligned with a technological leap unseen by outsiders. Humanity had not fallen behind. They had stepped sideways. An intelligence analyst summarized it in one terrifying sentence. They used our neglect as cover. Another report followed, new, deeply disturbing. When analysts compared human technological growth to galactic averages, the numbers did not make sense. Humanity should have collapsed under isolation. Instead, their progress curve spiked sharply upward. They had adapted faster without interference. The Elder Council reconvened, fear now replacing curiosity. One ancient member spoke a truth the others did not want to accept. We did not forget them, it said. We trained them. By pushing humanity away, the galaxy had forced them to become self-reliant, paranoid, and inventive. Every obstacle placed before them had been treated as a problem to solve, not a rule to follow. Humanity has learned how to survive alone. And now, they were no longer alone by accident. A final classified discovery sealed the Council's dread. A human archive, decoded from fragments hidden in abandoned colonies, contained a phrase repeated across centuries of records. Not a battle cry, not a warning, a plan. Remain small, remain quiet, remain underestimated, until silence is safer than speech. The galaxy finally understood what Earth's silence meant. Humanity had not vanished because they were weak. They vanished because they were ready. And whatever came next would not be loud. It would be final. The galaxy's mistake was simple. They believed progress required witnesses. For most species, advancement was public. Great achievements were announced, celebrated, and approved by councils older than most stars. Power was something to be seen, measured, and feared, because fear created balance. Humans did not believe that. When the last official observers left human space, nothing exploded. No secret fleets launched. No sudden miracles appeared. Humanity did not rush. They slowed down. The first thing humans did in true isolation was destroy their own shortcuts. Systems that depended on shared infrastructure were dismantled. Technologies that required galactic networks were abandoned. If something could not function alone, it was considered a weakness. Human engineers called it survival thinking. No single point of failure. No central command. No system that could be crippled with one strike. Human civilization fractured on the surface, but unified underneath. Colonies that seemed abandoned were not dead. They were emptied. Populations moved inward, downward, or sideways into places scanners could not read correctly. Cities were dismantled and rebuilt in layers beneath bedrock, oceans, and artificial gravity wells. To the galaxy, it looked like decline. In truth, humanity was learning how to disappear. Human scientists stopped publishing papers. Instead, they created closed research loops, ideas tested, broken, rebuilt, and tested again without outside judgment. Failure was no longer shameful. It was fuel. They stopped asking, "Can we do this?" They only asked, "What happens if we don't?" Energy was the first revolution. Humanity abandoned stellar dependence entirely. The stars were loud, predictable, easy to monitor. Humans learned to harvest motion, pressure, and probability itself. They built engines that fed on imbalance, tiny differences in reality that most species considered noise. Human power systems produced no flares, no emissions, no signatures. They simply worked. Then came intelligence. The galaxy feared artificial minds because they replaced life. Humans took a different approach. They built thinking systems designed not to rule, but to suffer limits. Human-made intelligences were constrained by uncertainty, doubt, and incomplete perception. They could not dominate. They could only adapt. These minds learned faster than anything the galaxy had ever created, not because they were perfect, but because they were allowed to be wrong. The machines did not replace humanity. They sharpened it. Human military doctrine changed next, quietly and completely. Humans had studied galactic wars for centuries. Every major conflict followed the same pattern: fleets, escalation, destruction, rebuilding, repetition. Victory was temporary. Attention was permanent. So humans rejected victory. They aimed for irreversibility. Weapons were no longer built to destroy ships. They were built to deny actions, to remove options, to rewrite local rules of physics just enough that an enemy could no longer fight, not because they were defeated, but because fighting became impossible. Human commanders trained not in battle simulations, but in silence drills. Entire fleets learned how to exist without communication, without orders, without certainty that anyone else was still alive. If a human force was cut off, it did not panic. It assumed that was the plan. The galaxy would later call this terrifying. Humans called it trust. As decades passed, something stranger emerged. Human culture stopped dreaming of conquest entirely. Stories of heroes gave way to stories of engineers, caretakers, and people who held the line without recognition. Children learned that survival was not glorious, but it was sacred. Humanity stopped needing to be seen. Then Earth changed. The planet was not turned into a weapon. That idea came later, from fearful outsiders trying to simplify something they did not understand. Earth became a keystone. Human scientists realized that the galaxy watched stars and ships, but rarely planets. Planets were slow, stable, predictable, perfect hiding places for impossible complexity. Layer by layer, Earth was rebuilt beneath its surface. Oceans became heat sinks. Mantles became conduits. The planet itself became part of a system too large to understand from the outside. From orbit, Earth looked untouched. Inside, it was alive in a new way. Humanity did not do this in secret from its own people. Every generation voted on the cost. Every sacrifice was documented. No one was forced. Some chose to leave, spreading humanity outward even further into the dark. Some chose to stay, knowing Earth would never be the same again. Those who stayed did not call themselves heroes. They called themselves anchors. The galaxy never noticed the shift. Why would they? Human signals continued to fade. Human traffic declined. Trade logs showed nothing unusual. Everything suggested decay. That illusion held for centuries. Until the silence. When Earth finally went dark, the galaxy assumed death. But inside human space, systems activated that had never been used before. Not alarms. Confirmations. Hidden stations across deep space woke up. Not all at once, but in patterns too subtle to look coordinated. Each station verified the others. Each system checked for interference, for betrayal, for unexpected variables. Humanity did not assume success. They verified it. At the edge of human-controlled space, a listening post detected something unexpected. A galactic probe, ancient, forgotten, drifting, had wandered too close to a region it was never meant to see. The probe transmitted data before humans erased it. That data reached the galactic core. What it showed terrified analysts. Human constructs that were not ships, not stations, not anything recognized by known science. Structures that existed partly outside conventional space, anchored by mathematics no one else used. They were quiet. They were everywhere. The galaxy scrambled to understand what it was seeing. Military theorists argued. Scientists denied the data. Politicians delayed action. Humanity did nothing. Then came the message. Not a broadcast. Not a declaration. A single, localized transmission received by only a handful of high-level monitoring systems. It was simple. We did not build this to fight you. Panic erupted. Because the implication was clear. If this was not built for war, then war was not the worst thing humanity had prepared for. Further analysis revealed something even more disturbing. Human technology did not scale like anyone else's. Most species improved by adding more ships, more weapons, more energy. Humans improved by removing dependencies. Their systems became stronger the fewer resources they used. Their networks functioned better when isolated. Their weapons required no supply lines. Humanity had built a civilization that thrived under siege. One analyst summarized the nightmare perfectly. You cannot cut them off. That is their natural state. As fear spread, the Elder Council returned to the same question asked at the beginning. Why hide all this? Why vanish? The answer arrived from human archives, decoded far too late. Humanity has studied the galaxy's history carefully. Every major threat followed a pattern. Rising powers were challenged. Challenged powers were tested. Tested powers were eventually destroyed or controlled. Visibility was the trigger. So humanity removed the trigger. They did not want to rule the galaxy. They wanted to outlast it. The silence was not a signal of attack. It was a checkpoint. A moment where humanity stopped pretending to be small and waited to see who noticed. As Part 3 ends, the galaxy faces a terrifying truth. Everything it knows about power is wrong. And humanity has been ready for that realization longer than anyone can remember. The galaxy waited for an explosion. That was how wars always began. A fleet crossing a border. A star burning too brightly. A city reduced to ash. Violence announced itself so that everyone could choose a side. Nothing like that happened. Instead, a core military relay in the Thal Union, one of the oldest and most heavily defended powers, missed a routine status check. The relay was a massive structure, older than several civilizations, designed to coordinate fleets across dozens of systems. It had never failed. At first, technicians assumed a timing error. Then they tried to reroute the signal. There was no response. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Just absent. Sensors confirmed the relay was still physically there. Its mass, orbit, and structure remained intact. But every function, communication, power flow, command authority, was gone, as if the relay had been unplugged from reality itself. Engineers panicked. Military commanders demanded answers. The Union prepared retaliation protocols, convinced this was the opening strike of a long-feared enemy. Then a second relay failed. Then a third. Each one in a different region. Each one is critical. Each one collapsing without violence, without warning, without a trace of hostile energy. The galaxy's first instinct was to blame each other. Old grudges resurfaced. Fleets mobilized. Accusations filled emergency channels. Everyone spoke at once, desperately trying to find the enemy. Human space remained silent. That silence was worse than any threat. An emergency investigation team was dispatched to one of the failed relays. They arrived expecting wreckage or sabotage. They found something else, etched faintly into the inner hull. So small it could only be seen up close, was a simple human marking. Not a military insignia. Not a warning symbol. A date. It matched the day Earth went silent. The discovery was suppressed immediately. But suppression failed, as it always did. Leaks spread. Analysts connected the pattern. Every disabled relay served a strategic purpose that once limited or constrained human movement. None of them were random. The realization spread slowly, then all at once. Humanity had not attacked the galaxy. They had adjusted it. The relays had not been destroyed. They had been excluded, removed from the web of command and influence without harming anyone nearby. Entire fleets found themselves unable to receive orders. Governments lost the ability to coordinate across their own territories. No blood was spilled, and that was the most frightening part. A junior officer in the Thal Union said what many were thinking but no one wanted to admit. This isn't war. This is editing. Panic followed. Species that had once enslaved weaker worlds suddenly lost control of their enforcement fleets. Trade empires discovered their monopolies dissolving as routes reopened without permission. Old tyrants screamed into the void, demanding to know who dared touch their power. Humanity did not answer. Then came the rescues. On a mining world long considered expendable, millions of bonded laborers awoke to find their overseer systems offline. Gates unlocked. Security drones powered down gently and never restarted. Human ships appeared briefly, small, unmarked, impossible to track. They evacuated civilians, provided supplies, and left before anyone could respond. No speeches, no flags, no demands. The galaxy watched in confusion as long-oppressed populations vanished from under the noses of their rulers. For the first time, the silence spoke. Governments demanded retaliation. Fleets finally crossed into human-adjacent space, eager to force a reaction. They never reached their destination. The ships did not explode. Their crews did not die. Instead, time inside their vessels slowed. Not stopped. Not frozen. slowed just enough that engines could not engage and weapons could not lock. To the crews, it felt like moving through heavy water. Systems lagged. Decisions came too late. Orders arrived after the moment had passed. Humanity did not trap them forever. After exactly 1 standard hour, the effect ended. The fleets found themselves exactly where they had started, with no memory gaps and no damage. Only a message, delivered to command channels that should not have been accessible. Do not advance. Some commanders laughed nervously. Others ordered renewed assaults. Those fleets did not return. Their stars did not explode. Their systems did not burn. Their suns dimmed. Not extinguished, regulated. Output lowered to a level that could sustain life, but not industry. Planets survived. Civilizations did not. The galaxy understood the message immediately. Humanity was not targeting people. They were targeting control. Emergency councils convened everywhere. The ancient elders who had feared this moment spoke again, their voices heavy with regret. They are not angry, one said. They are finished asking. Humanity finally made a full appearance. Not with armadas. Not with conquerors. With envoys. Human figures appeared simultaneously on thousands of screens across the galaxy. They were not uniformed. Some were old. Some young. Some were visibly tired. They spoke calmly. We are not declaring war, the envoy said. We are ending one that never needed to happen. No threats followed. No ultimatums. Only terms. Empires that ruled through fear were told to release control or lose the ability to enforce it. Species that exploited others were given a choice. Dismantle their systems voluntarily or have them dismantled quietly. Some resisted. Their infrastructure vanished piece by piece. No destruction, just removal. A shipyard that could no longer be built. A fleet that could no longer move. A government that could no longer command. The galaxy struggled to respond because there was nothing to fight. No targets. No lines. No escalation. Humanity was everywhere and nowhere at once. A historian watching the chaos made a chilling observation. They are acting like gravity. You don't fight it. You adapt, or fall. As panic peaked, a classified report circulated among high-level leaders. It analyzed human strategy and reached a terrifying conclusion. This was not their full capability. This was restraint. Human systems were precise to the point of mercy. Effects were localized. Casualties were avoided whenever possible. Even the dimmed stars were adjusted to preserve ecosystems. Humanity was showing the galaxy what they could do, while choosing not to do worse. Why? Because they were not trying to win. They were trying to teach. Near the edge of human space, a final demonstration occurred. A coalition fleet, desperate and enraged, launched a doomsday weapon toward an uninhabited human installation. The weapon never reached its target. It vanished mid-flight, replaced by a broadcast. A simple image of Earth. Not the planet as it once was, but as it was now. Layers of light beneath the crust. Systems intertwined with oceans and continents. A world no longer just a home, but a machine of impossible scale. Then a single line of text appeared. We paid the price first. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, silence returned, but it was no longer ignorance. It was fear mixed with understanding. Humanity had made its first move, and it had not been a strike. It was a correction. The galaxy searched for a weakness. After the first human moves, fear turned into obsession. Councils demanded answers not about how humanity acted, but what it cost them. Every great power in history had paid a price: economic collapse, cultural decay, internal rebellion. Power always left scars. Surely humans had scars too. Analysts tore through old records, abandoned data caches, and fragments of human transmissions gathered over centuries. At first, the information seemed meaningless. Cultural archives, personal journals, local votes, family messages. Then patterns emerged. Humanity had never hidden the cost. They had documented it. Long before Earth went silent, human civilization began recording something called the ledger. It was not a financial system. It tracked choices, every major decision, every sacrifice, every irreversible step. The galaxy's greatest mistake was assuming humans hid their losses. They did not. They shared them only with each other. The ledger showed the first great sacrifice happened quietly, during a time the galaxy labeled human decline. Earth's population began to drop, not from war or disease, but from choice. Birth rates fell as humanity shifted focus away from growth and toward endurance. Human leaders did not call it population control. They called it preparation. Every new human life means resources, attention, and risk. Humanity chose fewer children, but raised them with brutal honesty. No myths of destiny. No promises of rescue. Only one truth repeated across generations. No one is coming to save us. The galaxy saw shrinking numbers and assumed weakness. In reality, humanity was compressing itself into something harder. The second sacrifice was distance. Human colonies voted, planet by planet, on whether to remain connected to Earth. Many chose separation, not exile, not abandonment, but independence so complete that even Earth would not know their fate. Humanity deliberately fractured itself. If one part fell, the rest would not. Entire cultures vanished from known space by design, heading into regions no one else wanted. Cold voids, chaotic star clusters, places where navigation failed and sensors lied. Humans did not seek comfort. They sought survival. The third sacrifice was identity. Human culture stopped presenting itself as a single voice. Languages diverged. Traditions split. Symbols changed. To outsiders, humanity became impossible to define. No unified threat. No central ideology. To humans, this was freedom. The galaxy later realized too late that you cannot destroy what you cannot define. But the greatest sacrifice was Earth itself. The ledger revealed debates that lasted generations. Millions of voices argued over one question. Was it right to change their home forever? Earth was not just a planet. It was a memory, origin, myth. Every human story began there. To alter it was to accept there would be no return to what they once were. The vote was never unanimous. It was overwhelming. Humanity chose survival over nostalgia. They did not destroy Earth. They repurposed it. The process took centuries. Cities were dismantled and rebuilt underground. Continents became layers of infrastructure. Oceans became cooling systems. The planet's core was reshaped into a stabilizer for systems that could not exist anywhere else. Earth became the anchor that allowed humanity to disappear. And not everyone left. The ledger recorded volunteers by the millions. Scientists, engineers, teachers, ordinary people. They chose to stay behind, knowing Earth would no longer be a normal world. They called themselves stewards. Their lives were shorter, harder, spent maintaining systems few would ever see. They lived knowing they would never walk on an untouched shore or see the planet as it once was. They accepted it without praise, because someone had to. The galaxy never noticed the population shift. Why would it? Humans had always been numerous. A few billion less over centuries meant nothing to outsiders. But internally, humanity felt the weight of every choice. The ledger showed mourning periods that lasted decades. Entire cultural movements dedicated to remembering what was lost, not to regret it, but to prevent repeating mistakes. Humanity did not forget its sacrifices. It carried them. When analysts finally understood this, fear deepened into something worse. Respect. Because power built on sacrifice behaves differently than power built on greed. Greedy empires expand until they collapse. Humanity contracted until it became unbreakable. The galaxy asked a dangerous question next. If humans paid so much already, what would they be willing to pay again? That answer came sooner than expected. A coalition of desperate powers, furious at their loss of control, decided to test humanity's limits. They targeted one of the hidden human refuge systems, far from Earth, lightly defended, populated mostly by civilians. The attack was swift and brutal. The coalition expected retaliation. They expected outrage. They expected to finally provoke humanity into war. Instead, the human response was quiet. Rescue ships arrived first. Not warships. Evacuation vessels. They served as many lives as possible, even among non-humans caught in the attack. Then humanity did something that stunned everyone. They abandoned the system. No counterattack. No chase. No punishment. Humanity dismantled their own infrastructure, erased every trace, and left the region empty. To the galaxy, it looked like surrender. It was not. It was a message. Humanity would not bleed to protect territory. They would bleed to protect people. The coalition celebrated briefly. Then the consequences arrived. Every member of the coalition lost access to key resources, not through blockades, but through quiet failures. Supply chains unraveled. Communication delays grew. Navigation errors multiplied. Nothing catastrophic. Just enough. The coalition collapsed under its own weight within months. No human fleets appeared. No human weapons fired. The galaxy understood then. Humanity did not need to punish. They let cause and effect do the work. A senior historian recorded the moment with shaking hands. They sacrificed their past so they would never have to sacrifice their future. The ledger ended with a section that terrified everyone who read it. It was labeled simply, Limits. Inside were entries listing things humanity would not do. Lines they would not cross. Worlds they would not burn. Species they would not erase. But the final entry was different. It was a warning, written centuries before Earth went silent. If these limits are broken by others, we will remove the need for them. The galaxy finally understood. Humanity's restraint was not weakness. It was discipline earned through loss. They had already paid the highest price imaginable, giving up their home, their comfort, their innocence. What remained was not anger. It was resolved. As Part 5 ends, the galaxy faces a terrifying truth. You cannot threaten a species that has already sacrificed everything it loves. And humanity still had something left to protect. Fear does not stay quiet forever. For a time, the galaxy froze. Empires restructured. Councils stalled. Leaders hoped, desperately, that humanity would stop where it was. That the correction had been made. That restraint would hold. It did not. Human influence continued to spread, not as occupation, but as absence. Borders lost meaning. Enforcement fleets lost authority. Systems once ruled by threat became impossible to control. To the old powers, this was intolerable. Control was not just power. It was an identity. So the galaxy did what it always did when faced with something it could not understand. It united against it. For the first time in recorded history, rival empires signed emergency accords without negotiation. Ancient enemies shared intelligence. Forbidden weapons were unsealed. Technologies locked away after earlier disasters were brought back online. The galaxy told itself a familiar lie. If enough force is applied, anything can be broken. The plan was simple, overwhelming, final. They would strike human space everywhere at once. Not Earth, not yet, but the outer systems. The hidden stations. The refugee world. They would force humanity to choose between surrender and extinction. Millions of ships were mobilized. Space bent under the weight of it. The galaxy had never fielded a force so vast, so coordinated. Observers believed that even humanity could not withstand it. Humanity watched. They did not panic. They did not retreat. They prepared, but not for battle. Human systems began to shut down deliberately. Stations powered off. Routes collapsed. Signals vanished. To outside observers, it looked like humanity was withdrawing, abandoning territory again. Commanders laughed. Running, they said. Just like before. The fleets advanced. Then the galaxy discovered the first problem. Navigation failed. Not completely, just enough. Jump points misaligned by fractions of a degree. Time estimates drifted. Fleets arrived seconds later than planned. Then minutes. Then hours. Commanders adjusted. They recalculated. They pushed forward. The second problem followed. Communication lagged. Orders arrived out of sequence. Some fleets received conflicting commands from the same source. Others lost contact entirely, forced to rely on pre-planned instructions. Still, they advanced. The galaxy believed friction was normal in large operations. They did not yet realize friction was the operation. When the first fleets reached what should have been human-controlled systems, they found nothing. No defenses. No ships. No installations. Just empty space where infrastructure had existed days before. Humanity had removed itself faster than the galaxy could pursue. Frustration turned into rage. Commanders ordered deeper strikes toward Earth. That was when the third problem appeared. Reality itself began to resist. Weapons charged slower. Shields drained faster. Engines produced less thrust than expected. Not failure, inefficiency. Subtle. Widespread. The galaxy had always assumed the laws of physics were constant. They were wrong. Human systems had been quietly rewriting local conditions for centuries. Not breaking reality, tuning it. Creating regions where certain actions became increasingly difficult the longer they were attempted. Firing weapons became harder. Coordinating fleets became harder. Maintaining momentum became harder. The more force applied, the worse it got. Humanity had not built walls. They had built gradients. At the heart of the advancing armadas, panic began to spread. Commanders accused each other of sabotage. Engineers tore apart systems that had worked flawlessly for millennia. Nothing was broken. Everything was being discouraged. Still, some fleets pushed through, driven by desperation, pride, or fear of what retreat would mean. Those fleets reached the edge of Earth's influence and stopped, not by explosions, not by weapons, by certainty. Humanity finally spoke again, but not to everyone. Individual fleet commanders received personal transmissions. No demands, not threats, histories. Each commander was shown a simulation of what would happen if they continued, not in grand terms, but personal ones. Their ships, their crews, their homeworlds. Not destruction, collapse, supply chains unraveling, political authority dissolving, civil unrest triggered by loss of control rather than loss of life. Humanity showed them the end of power, not the end of people. Many commanders broke. They turned back. Those who did not learned the final lesson. Humanity allowed exactly one fleet to reach Earth's perimeter. The galaxy watched breathlessly, expecting annihilation. Instead, the fleet simply stopped existing in any meaningful way. Ships remained intact. Crews survived. But the fleet was no longer a fleet. Vessels drifted apart, unable to coordinate, unable to act together. Each ship became an isolated object in space. Rescue was allowed. Recovery was permitted. Reorganization was impossible. The message was clear. Humanity would not kill you for attacking. They would remove your ability to ever threaten again. The united offensive collapsed within days. Not from defeat, but from exhaustion. Fleets returned home disordered, leaderless, shaken. The galaxy had thrown everything it had, and humanity had not escalated once. That was when true fear set in. A senior strategist summarized the disaster in one line. We fought them with force. They fought us with inevitability. Emergency councils reconvened. Panic was no longer hidden. The ancient elders spoke again, their voices carrying a final, terrible understanding. Humanity is not defending territory, one said. They are defending outcomes. Another added, quietly, and they are very patient. As fleets limped home, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Systems once held together by military strength were collapsing, not because humans attacked them, but because the illusion of control was gone. Rebellion sparked. Alliances fractured. Economies are destabilized. Humanity did nothing. They let the galaxy feel the consequences of its own structure. Then, at last, humanity made its most dangerous move. They offered peace. Not a treaty. Not an alliance. An exit. A final broadcast reached every major power, translated into thousands of languages. A human voice spoke, not with authority, but with finality. We will not rule you. We will not protect you. We will not watch you anymore. Humanity announced its withdrawal from galactic affairs entirely. They would seal their space, dismantle their visible systems, and remove their influence, unless certain conditions were violated. No expansion through force. No enslavement. No extinction campaigns. Break those rules, and humanity would return, not as negotiators. As for corrections, the galaxy reeled. This was worse than conquest, because conquest created enemies. Humanity was creating responsibility. As Part 6 ends, the galaxy faces a truth it cannot escape. Humanity does not need to win. They only need to decide when the game is no longer allowed. And next, they will explain why. The galaxy expected demands. After the failed offensive, after the collapse of control and the quiet dismantling of power, leaders waited for the moment humanity would finally say what it wanted. Territory, tribute, submission. History had taught them that every force revealed its desire eventually. Humanity did not. Instead, they shared the truth. The broadcast did not come from Earth. It came from everywhere. Small relays hidden in the background noise of space, places no one had ever thought to look. The signal did not override systems or force attention. It simply appeared, patiently waiting to be received. Those who listened heard the same voice. It was not a leader's voice, not a soldier, not even a politician. It sounded like a teacher. Before we leave, the voice said, "You deserve to know why we prepared so long, and why we cannot stay." The galaxy leaned in. Humanity spoke of its early years among the stars, years the galaxy remembered only as nuisance and noise. They spoke of optimism, of believing that reason and cooperation were universal. They admitted how wrong they had been. We learned, the voice said, that intelligence does not prevent cruelty. It only makes it more efficient. They explained how humanity studied every fallen civilization it could find, not just the wars, but the quiet moments before collapse, the assumptions, the comforts, the belief that someone else would stop the worst outcomes. Humanity had seen a pattern the galaxy refused to acknowledge. Advanced civilizations did not fall because of enemies. They fell because of themselves. Internal stagnation, power concentrating into fewer hands, systems designed to preserve control rather than life. Every empire believed it was different. None were. We realized, the voice continued, that if we stayed visible long enough, we would become the same. This was the truth that unsettled the galaxy most. Humanity was not afraid of being destroyed. They were afraid of becoming destroyers. The broadcast showed fragments of human history never shared before. Moments when humans nearly chose domination. When fear almost turned into conquest. When survival tempted them to rule instead of endure. Each time, the cost had been recorded. Each time, humanity stepped back. Not because they were kinder, but because they were terrified of what they could become. We prepared, the voice said, not to defeat you, but to make sure we would never need to. The galaxy struggled with that idea. Why build such power if not to use it? Humanity answered, because power and used is restraint, and restraint is a choice that must be defended. They explained Earth's transformation in full, not as a weapon, but as a final reminder. A planet reshaped so thoroughly that no human could ever forget the price of survival. Earth was not a throne. It was a scar. Humanity revealed something else then, something no analyst had predicted. They had not only prepared defenses, they had prepared an ending. Human systems included fail-safes designed to erase their greatest technologies permanently, not to hide them, not to lock them away, to destroy them. If we stayed, the voice said, eventually we would be forced to choose between saving ourselves and ruling others. We refused that choice. The galaxy finally understood why humanity kept escalating without escalating, why every response stopped just short of absolute domination. Humanity was practicing letting go. They had learned that no civilization should exist forever, not even theirs. The broadcast shifted tone, becoming quieter. There is one more truth, the voice said, the one we never shared. The galaxy listened in absolute silence. Humanity revealed that it had not prepared only for the galaxy. Beyond known space, beyond the mapped void, beyond regions no one dared explore, humanity had found evidence. Not life, not enemies, patterns, structures older than stars, absences where something had once been. Entire regions of space stripped clean in ways no natural process could explain. Humanity did not know what caused it. They only knew one thing. Whatever it was, civilizations that grew too loud did not survive it. We don't know when it will return, the voice admitted. We don't know what it wants. We only know what it ignores. Silence. Humanity had not been hiding from the galaxy. They had been hiding the galaxy. By staying visible, by becoming a dominant power, humanity would have drawn attention, not just political, but cosmic. The kind no fleet could fight. The kind no alliance could stop. So we chose to become quiet, the voice said. And when we were forced to act, we acted just enough to restore balance. The implication was devastating. Humanity was not leaving because they had won. They were leaving because staying might doom everyone. The broadcast did not ask for trust. It did not demand belief. It simply shared the data, star maps, anomalies, timelines, enough to show that humanity's fear was not imaginary. Then came the final message. We are sealing our space, the voice said. Not to abandon you, but to reduce the signal. Humanity explained what would happen next. Human regions would collapse inward, folding into isolated pockets of reality inaccessible by normal means. Their greatest systems would dismantle themselves. Earth would go dark forever, not dead, but unreachable. Humanity would scatter, some leaving the galaxy entirely, others choosing to live quietly among the stars, unrecognizable, unimportant, and unseen. They would become myth, not to be worshipped, not to be feared, to be forgotten again. One last condition was given. If the galaxy ever united under a single will of domination, if control replaced coexistence completely, Humanity would return, not as rulers, as erasers. Then the voice softened. This is not a threat, it said. It is a promise we hope to never keep. The broadcast ended. No dramatic exit. No final words. Just silence. Across the galaxy, leaders sat in shock. Some denied the message outright. Others accepted it with dread. A few, quietly, felt something else. Relief. For the first time, the galaxy understood that humanity's power had never been the most dangerous thing about them. It was their self-awareness. Humanity knew exactly what it was capable of, and chose to walk away anyway. As Part 7 ends, the galaxy faces a final, haunting realization. The most powerful species it had ever known was not leaving because it was weak, but because it was strong enough to know when to stop. The galaxy did not sleep after humanity left. I tried. Worlds dimmed their lights. Fleets returned to docks. Councils adjourned with promises to reconvene later. Leaders told their people the crisis had passed, but no one believed it. Human space folded inward exactly as promised. Routes that once existed simply didn't. Maps refused to update. Sensors reported contradictions. Probes launched toward former human systems returned with empty data or failed to return at all. Earth vanished last. One moment it was there, quiet, unreadable, distant. The next, it was not gone, not destroyed, but unreachable in a way no one could explain. A hole in causality where a homeworld used to be. The galaxy named it the Closed Blue. And then, there was nothing. No human messages. No hidden relays. No quiet interventions. Humanity was gone. At first, chaos threatened to return. Old empires tested their borders. Former tyrants whispered about rebuilding control. Some believed humanity's warning had been a bluff, a story meant to scare the galaxy into behaving. Those voices did not last. The first proof came from a minor power on the outer rim. Small, ambitious, certain it could expand quietly without consequence. They enslaved a neighboring species, erased records, and declared the act internal. Nothing happened. Weeks passed, then months. Confidence grew. Then, without warning, every ship belonging to that power lost the ability to synchronize. Fleets scattered. Command chains collapsed. Their capital world remained untouched, but its authority evaporated overnight. No human presence was detected. No signals were traced. Only effect. The message was clear. Humanity had not left behind guards. They had left behind conditions. The galaxy adapted. Slowly, painfully, civilizations rewrote their rules. Expansion slowed. Exploitation became riskier. Control without consent stopped working, not because of rebellion, but because systems designed for domination failed in subtle, cascading ways. A new understanding spread. Power that relied on fear was unstable now. Historians began rewriting timelines. The human correction became a fixed point in galactic education. Children of 100 species learned the same lesson, taught in different languages, but with identical meaning. Silence does not mean weakness. Silence can mean restraint. And restraint, once chosen, can become law. Decades passed, then centuries. The galaxy did not become peaceful. Conflicts still happened. Species still argued, fought, and failed. But something fundamental had changed. No one tried to rule everything anymore. Not because they were kinder, because they were afraid of becoming loud. Every long-range sensor array included a special protocol now, one designed to detect a very specific pattern. Not energy spikes, not fleets, absence. If space ever went too quiet again, alarms would sound across entire civilizations. Because everyone remembered what followed the last time. Some scholars debated whether humanity still existed at all. Had they scattered too far? Had they erased themselves completely, just as their failsafe suggested? Others believed humanity was still there, watching, but not from ships or stations. From mathematics. From background noise. From places where cause and effect bent just slightly out of alignment. The truth was never confirmed. Then, one day, a child on a small, unimportant world asked a question that spread across the galaxy. If humans were so powerful, the child asked, why didn't they stay? No council answered. No historian agreed. But an old archivist, one of the last who had seen the first silence with their own eyes, offered a simple reply. Because they understood something we didn't, the archivist said. Survival isn't about winning forever. It's about knowing when your existence becomes dangerous. The child thought about this for a long time. So, are they heroes? The child asked. The archivists shook their head. No, they said. Heroes want to be remembered. Another century passed. Galactic culture changed in ways no one had predicted. Cooperation became more common, not because of idealism, but because isolation had once nearly ended everything. Species learned to leave room for others, to share space without swallowing it. The galaxy did not become united. I became careful. Every now and then, explorers reported strange phenomena at the edges of known space. Regions where equations behaved strangely, where ships felt watched, not by eyes, but by outcomes. The reports were always dismissed officially. Unofficially, no one followed up. Some secrets were safer left alone. The final record of humanity was not a monument, a ruin, or a warning beacon. It was a single line added to the Galactic Charter, a law no one voted against. When a species grows quiet, listen carefully, because the day Earth went silent was no longer remembered as a mystery. It was remembered as a lesson. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy.